Coming up on the DLLS Mavs podcast, who are the real Dallas Mavericks? Plus a little Mavericks buy or sell today as we keep up the good vibes on the Mavericks 3-game winning streak. All that and more coming up next year on the DLLS Mavs podcast. Here we go. Hey, what's up, DLLS Mavs Nation? It's your man, Kevin Gray, alongside Mavericks beat writer Tim Cato, Mavericks analyst Bobby Carella, and our national NBA insider, Mark Stein. We are DLLS Mavs, your favorite guys covering your favorite team every single day at Kevin Gray Sports, at Tim_Cato, at Bobby Carella. You can always dial up the Stein line for Mark Stein at the Stein line. Will the real Mavericks stand up after a 4-game losing streak? They're currently on a 3-game heater after their beatdown of the Pelicans last night, plus a little Mavericks buy or sell today as well. Really appreciate you joining us here on DLLS Sports. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to us here on our program. Less than 24 hours, gentlemen, after the Mavericks beat down the Pelicans by 41 points as they get ready to play 7 of their next 9 games.
That's a Mavericks number.
On the road. How about that 41? Somebody pointed that out last night on the chat as well. A Dirk victory, if you will, with the 41-point win over the New Orleans Pelicans. How are we feeling?
I was going to say it was Jamal Musiala's number, but I guess Dirk as well.
Yeah, Dirk works here as well. How are we feeling on this wonderful Wednesday, gentlemen, here on DLLS Mavs?
Nice weather outside. I had a breakfast with a former coworker where we talked about all sorts of good stuff. Life is good.
What can
Luka? I say? I had breakfast with Luka this morning. Yeah, we talked about a lot of things. It was great.
I'm just saying, former coworker. That's a very
true.
Broad statement.
It's true.
Term. Designation. It's a very broad designation. Yeah. I was looking for the right word.
Mark, what's going on?
It's NBA Cup week. We're rolling.
It is. Mark.
So that's why you're glowing.
Yes,
Yeah.
right. That's right. He's got a big smile on his face because a little bit later on in
Your
our show.
favorite guys covering your favorite team.
Hey, that's
Covering
my
your
bit,
favorite
Stein.
tournament.
That is
Covering
my
my
bit.
No, you forgot the last part. Covering your favorite team every day. And trust me, it feels like every day right now.
Your
5 days
favorite
in a row.
guys covering your favorite, not a tournament.
Andrew, maybe. 6 p.m. I'll let you know. I'll see if I can make it.
Wait a minute. You're going to go play hoop in public.
Damn.
Is that what that says?
Well, it's the Y that I usually play at and work out at. So.
Andrew, we need some footage of that. Please furnish us with some video.
Okay, well, I'm not going anymore.
Oh, you don't want you to
Can't
lay
handle
a
pressure
on my
package
side.
display
So you'll sit on the internet and say all sorts of things about Mavs basketball players, but
Cato, come play pickup at the
I
Y.
hooped with TGK on Sunday. So we got a lot of people.
TGK, drop that scouting report in the chat for us. Thank you.
If Kavanaugh can go run a 40 at the Star in Frisco, I need footage of Tim Cato at
He
the
did
Y.
that?
What was his time?
I don't know if he
they
has
have a
completed
bet
the
that he could
challenge.
run a sub 4.6,
Yeah.
I think.
That's supposed to happen a little bit later on this
Sub
afternoon.
4.6?
He was a
chance.
world-class flag football player.
Oh,
But is
relax,
it-
Matt. Relax,
Very
Matt.
good.
No,
But hold
he
on,
traveled the
okay,
country,
time out.
like,
Isn't
played for money.
4.6 a pretty fast
4.6
40 time?
very fast, yeah.
That's right.
But he used to be able to run, I think, a 4.4.
Also,
think.
Kavanaugh has no ACL, so that'll
Yeah.
go well today.
How old
for
is
him.
Kavanaugh?
72.
He's
41.
about 40.
Yeah.
77.
No. What? No.
I'm just saying Mavericks.
The
related
point
numbers
is,
now.
if Kavanaugh can go run a 40 at the Star in Frisco, we can definitely get some footage of Tim Cato at the Y hooping later on today. So
You'd be surprised what you're able to accomplish. Be surprised what I'm able to. I don't know. We can move on.
Well, the Mavericks have accomplished a 3-game winning streak after losing 4 straight after beating the Pelicans last night. They are off until Friday when they visit Nikola Jokic and the Denver Nuggets for Mark's favorite time of the year. The NBA Cup resumes on Friday when the Mavericks visit the Denver Nuggets, prompting this question today. Who are the real Dallas Mavericks? Are they the team that lost 4 straight, including an inexplicable loss on the road in Salt Lake City to the Utah Jazz, or the team that beat down the Pelicans, was able to get a really nice win on the road against the Oklahoma City Thunder, prior to that beating the Victor Wembanyama-less San Antonio Spurs? Who are the real Dallas Mavericks, gentlemen.
It's probably the team that won very big as they were supposed to against bad teams, not the one that just had a bunch of close, very narrow, very, final possession. If anything happened differently in those games, it could have gone the other way. It's probably the recent one.
I want to be generic sports talk guy for 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Annoying.
So first off, my guy RBZ is in the chat saying no more vegetables from here on out. I used to have a saying whenever I was working at the Mavs, talking about games that they lost. You got to eat your vegetables. We got to figure out why this is happening. All right. It sucks. Losing sucks, but you got to do it. It feels like, from generic sports talk guys' point of view, it feels like the Mavs watched the DLLS Mavs podcast post-game show after that Utah game and developed a little bit of a sense of urgency.
Or shame.
Yeah, or shame.
Right.
They came out and beat the brakes off of two really, really injured, beaten down bad teams. By the way, the Spurs just beat the Thunder last night without Wemby, and I don't believe Devin Vassell played in that game either, and they were able to beat OKC. So maybe the Spurs are a little better than we think. And then they also go on the road and beat OKC. And they did it with urgency. They did it with physicality. They did it with aggression, with stubbornness, with attention to detail, with fighting for loose balls, with doing all the things that if they had done just a little more in any of those 4 losses, but especially that Utah one, they might have won all of them. So I think this Mavs team, I guess the thing that I've learned is that maybe it took a little bit of humiliation for them to rediscover their bully attitude, their bully mindset. And if it takes getting lit into by everyone that has ever been to a Mavs game in their life in order to get there, then I think that was probably a worthwhile loss in Utah. But it still sucks really bad. But it feels like they've turned a corner. That's what I'm saying.
I'm going to go somewhere in the middle, and that sounds like a cop-out answer. But honestly, when you look through the first 15 games of this year, and we'll get into more as the show goes on, this is a team that right now is top 10 in both offensive and defensive rating. And when you're a team that's trying to navigate an 82-game season, one of the words that Jason Kidd has used throughout the course of the preseason into the season is patience. Sometimes we've seen this team play to its level of capability, like we saw last night against the Pelicans. Sometimes we've seen them play down to particular competition and not play as well as they should have. But for a team that's looking to have as much consistency as possible, by the time we get to season's end, if this team is in the top 6, most importantly for me in the top 4, I think this will be a team that we look back on and say they needed to go through some of these ebbs and flows and ups and downs to eventually get to where they want to go. And I think we've seen some of that through the first 15 games. But I do think they are on the upper end of what should be a really good team this year. It may take a little bit more time than maybe we wanted to, given the start that some of these teams in the West have gotten off to, and we wanted to see Dallas kind of keep up with those teams. Maybe they're trending in that direction where they need to go in this case.
Three really good answers. I like Tim's best.
Of course you did.
Yeah.
To me, it's been a very this is why they play the game start, because the loss at Utah is still, we're a week removed from it, and is still absolutely ghastly, and I still cannot fathom how they lost that game. But by the same token, I didn't see this kind of bounce back either. And I've kind of railed on the Mavs a little bit for, they've really done nothing but beat up on bad teams, but that's not totally true. I mean, they do have wins, two very impressive road wins at Minnesota, at Oklahoma City, the latter without Luka. So as bad as the fall was, as worrisome and distressing as the performance in Utah was, the bounce back has been just as impressive.
Mark, you said ghastly. The word that comes to mind for me is gaslighting, as in trying to convince you of something that isn't real. And when they played Utah, they were trying their best, their damn best, to convince us they were not a good team. And I'm just not buying it. This is a good team. I am not buying the gaslighting. I stand by the fact that I came into the season and I thought this was a good team, thought this was a very good team. And despite everything that has happened, I still believe this is a good team, because that is what made sense coming into the season. And that is what makes sense based off everything they've done, despite their best efforts to convince us otherwise. So gaslighting.
Dirk Nowitzki in the chat. By the way, I just announced on Twitter.
I
just announced on Twitter that this is going to be a very interactive show. So we got to step our games up.
It will be. This is
dive into this chat with us.
Day 5 in a row of podding it up.
Every day covering your favorite team.
Yeah.
Just like that.
Your favorite guys.
That's right. Every single day, literally, here at DLLS Mavs.
We should do another show later today.
Emergency pod?
You can do that by yourself.
What time's the emergency pod?
We're not.
Oh, my God.
By the way, I like the comment from one of our folks in the chat where they said this Mavericks team could easily be 11-4. And given some of the comments that we've talked about already, yeah, this team, based off of what they are offensively, defensively, good teams beat down bad teams like they've done when it comes to the Pelicans is the most recent example. But you've got to be able to be a team that's going to be taking every team's best shot every night and winning some of these games, especially as the season goes on, that are against some of these better teams in the West when we're talking about Denver, when we're talking about Oklahoma City, which they have done obviously already as well. With 7 of their next 9 games on the road, you look at some of the opponents that they have, you've got a chance to make up some real ground. We'll get into more of that a little bit later on in the show, but when you start taking a peek ahead, you've got games against teams like Atlanta, against Miami. You've got Portland mixed in there. You've got some teams that you can make up some real ground against. It feels like they got themselves on the right track moving forward toward that to really be able to capitalize on that going forward here.
When we can step back and assess, right? This season, the Mavs are 5-2 against teams that are currently below 500. A big storyline coming into the season is the West is so good that you have to win almost every single game against the teams that you should beat.
Mm-hmm.
One of those losses was that mystifying, I cannot believe it, loss in Utah. The other one was against the Pacers, who are currently 6-8. I don't think the Pacers are going to finish the season below 500. It's certainly possible, but I don't buy it. So if you eliminate that one, they're 5-1 in the games that they should
I have
win.
a poll question. This is a yes or no question, Tanner.
Okay.
So just to clarify,
Tanner been
because
working overtime on
last
the polls as of
last
late.
night I found out later after I went back to check out the pod that my poll question kind of threw you off, but I want to be clear. This is a very easy yes or no poll question. Will we ever this season stop talking about the Utah game? I have a feeling in April we're gonna be like, that freaking Utah loss, man.
No, I've already forgotten about it.
No, I don't believe you.
I've already forgotten about
So will there, that basically, however you want to throw it in the poll, will there ever come a point this season that we can stop talking about the loss at Utah? Yes or no?
If they win the championship, we will not.
That's like, I have a feeling in April when they're like, whatever seed they're battling for, we're going to be like, can you believe they lost that
If they
Utah?
miss out
Yeah.
on the number 1 seed in the West by 1 game, yes, we will talk about
You know,
the
in a
Utah
weird
loss
way-
as well.
Oh, sorry.
Well, I was going to say,
Look at Drew. That's not even a burner. That's a real comment. Hey, Drew, let me give you a little inside baseball on how this show works. In our pre-show meeting, our extensive pre-show meeting, suggested that we should discuss the cup again. And I was greeted with many eye rolls in the pre-show meeting. So shout out Drew for backing me up there.
Mark,
Well,
you
I
literally
was
cooked
upstairs.
for like 5 straight minutes on the NBA.
Right, I
Cup,
didn't
and-
let anybody else talk. We have 3 other gents here who might have something to say about the NBA Cup.
The last thing about that, though, so the Mavs have beaten the teams they should beat. They are 3-5 against teams that are 500 or better. 3 of those losses, the ball was in the air with a chance to tie or win at the buzzer. So whether those could have gone the other way, they didn't. But the Mavs are very close to being super good.
Yeah.
Instead, they're only pretty good. So they've done what, on the one hand, they've done what they were supposed to do. On the other hand, there's still work to be done, which that's very inconclusive, very non-committal language. But that's my way of saying I think that this is a good team. It's just they got to keep showing us.
to bring us back very briefly to, are we ever going to stop talking about the Utah loss? We can talk more about this whole question. I really like the question from Barry Parker. Does Luka still have a chance for MVP? And maybe we just table that and come back to it. We're doing questions next segment anyway, right? I'd like to discuss that then. But if there's a reason that you wouldn't stop talking about the Utah loss, unfortunately, I think it's that Utah may be symbolic of Luka's slow start. And if we actually get into Luka MVP discussions, if he is MVP level the rest of the season, or starting in 2 weeks from now, he's MVP level the rest of the season, that Utah game is a great way to go point back at how he really started the year really poorly.
Yeah.
And so that might be a reason that yes, it's something that's going to keep coming up, not because of even the loss itself, but because of what it represents about Luka and the team start.
Anchoring bias.
We'll answer more of those questions during our 3rd segment, actually. So, Barry, make sure you put a pin in that. We'll come back to that
Oh,
during
3rd segment.
Yeah,
My
the 3rd
bad.
segment. Yeah, we'll answer.
I don't do math.
Push the Kyrie All-Star agenda.
Or
Your
clearly
boy
pay attention
Matt,
to the run sheet.
we
but that's
will.
okay.
Oh, we will. Kyrie deserves to be an All-Star.
Not a starter, unfortunately. Well, maybe it's positionless still. Yes,
Who cares? He's going to get a lot of votes.
He's had a terrific start to the season, has one Kyrie Irving.
He's been a top 5 player in the West, I think, or borderline, but unfortunately 2 guards have been better than him for sure. But we can talk about that. We can talk about that later.
Luka and Clay.
Nice try, Bobby. Coming up next here on the DLLS Mavs podcast, a little Mavericks buy or sell, including this one when it comes to one of the Mavericks star bench players. All that and more coming up next here on the DLLS Mavs podcast.
With HelloFresh, you get farm-fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. Skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. That's why it is America's #1 meal kit. Whether you're craving hearty comfort food, trying to please picky eaters like me, or looking for maybe some calorie-conscious meals, hey, they got you covered. They have a smart meal plan. HelloFresh has all those options and more available on a rotating menu of 50 recipes to choose from every week. I don't mind eating the same thing every day, but if you like mixing it up, dude, HelloFresh is the perfect place for you. I also don't know what I'm doing in the kitchen, but these meals come with very, very easy to follow ingredients, and it is so simple. It takes like 30, 45 minutes max to prepare and cook all this stuff, and you're eating, boom, some incredible high-quality food. Try it for yourself. Get 10 free meals at HelloFresh.com/freemavs. Applied across 7 boxes. New subscribers only and varies by plan. That's 10 free HelloFresh meals just by going to HelloFresh.com/freemavs.
Let me talk to all my ball knowers out there, and I know you are because you've downloaded the Sleeper app. The Sleeper app that you know for hosting the best fantasy football leagues out there now allows you to put your knowledge to the test by picking whether your favorite or least favorite players have more or less than their projected stats each week. If you took Luka Doncic to have more than 25 points last night on Sleeper, you were a winner. Luka Doncic finished the game with 26 points. With Sleeper, the more picks you combine, the more you can win, all the way up to 100 times your money. Sleeper also keeps you in the loop with instant alerts for breaking news and major injuries. Will stay ahead of the game keep track of league updates in real time. You're always informed and ready to outsmart your friends. If you think you have what it takes, download the Sleeper app and use code DLLS Mavs. For a limited time, new users can now get their first deposit matched 100% up to $1,500. Their largest deposit match offer ever. Remember, terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in 25 states. Check out Sleeper today. Little Mavericks buy or sell here on the DLLS Mavs podcast. I've got a few statements and questions for these gentlemen, and you can play along as well. A little Mavericks buy or sell here on the DLLS Mavs podcast. Haven't done this in a little while, but after 15 games, we got a chance to assess a little bit as they have a couple days off before they take on the Denver Nuggets. Mavericks will be back on the practice floor, I should say, tomorrow as well before traveling to Denver. So, gentlemen, let's get into a little Mavericks buy or sell. You guys ready?
Let's do it.
I think I'm ready to go. Call me Mark Cuban. I'm ready to sell.
Yeah, I don't have $4 billion to give you, but we'll try anyway. Buy or sell, gentlemen. The Mavericks play 7 of their next 9 games on the road. Buy or sell, the Mavericks will be top 6 in the West by the time they finish that 9-game stretch.
Let me run down the games real quick. It is at Denver, at Miami, at Atlanta back-to-back, at Utah, at Portland back-to-back, at Washington, at Toronto. So those are the 7 road games. In between, they got home games against New York and Memphis.
Yeah, probably. Sorry.
Buy or sell.
Buy.
Jeez, Tim. Already blowing the segment already.
What is buy?
Now you're playing Jeopardy. Nice job. So you're buying that they'll be in the top 6.
This is a pretty easy stretch.
Okay.
I think that what Dallas has been doing over the past 3 games and what they should have done against Utah will probably continue. The games mixed in there that are truly ones that you're not so sure about. At Denver on Friday, but you got a couple of days off, and Denver has some injury problems of their own. Even Jokic is not for sure going to be back from personal reasons that he's missed a few games. If it's a non-Jokic game, that becomes a very different type of matchup for Dallas. A rematch against Utah, you would have to think that they're going to do better this time around. They fly
Goodness
the
sakes,
next
what
day.
happens to this show if they get swept in their 2 Utah visits?
Oh, we laugh a lot. I
We're gonna
can't
be doing
imagine
a lot of
anything.
laughing.
I can't imagine anything.
You're going to
funnier.
ritualistically light some stuff on fire.
I don't think there will be I don't think laughter would be the expected response.
I mean, you have to laugh and keep from crying in that case, but it is what it is.
Let's see, at Miami, at Atlanta, versus New York. Yeah, there's not a single game on here that you look at and be like, well, I wouldn't favor them for them. That's not to say they're going to win them all. But you shouldn't look at any of these games and think, yeah, I mean, what chance does Dallas have? Like, it's a schedule loss, anything like that. So
I'm saying sell, but it has nothing to do with the Mavs. It's just because trying to predict the Western Conference standings, how they're going to behave. I mean, good luck. I mean, it's so unpredictable. I mean, you're 2 conference finalists from. I mean, the Mavs aren't even in. What the Mavs?
They got to make up one game. They're one game
right,
out.
But that's what I'm saying. Anything is
Phoenix
possible in the West right now.
One game out.
I'm going to buy just because the Mavs are the protagonists of reality.
I thought I was.
Nope, it's the Mavs, and I think they're out of their next 9 games. I wouldn't be surprised if they win 6 or 7 of them. They got some easy teams coming up. As long as they stay healthy, they should. But of course, we've seen this team, despite its depth, you rack up a couple injuries.
Jalen Brunson back in town for Thanksgiving. You guys excited about that?
Is Rick coming with him?
I believe so.
Oh, okay.
I believe that's how.
Maybe we can check in on him with that investigation.
Okay, Bobby. All right, we'll get spicy today on this Wednesday. By the way, 5 of those 9 games in this 7 of 9 stretch that are on the road, 5 of those games are against Eastern Conference teams. And if you've been paying any attention at all to the Eastern Conference outside of Boston and Cleveland, the East is bad. So
got to win those games.
That's how you spell that word?
Yes, that's
Thank
right.
God.
That's right. BAD.
I've been wondering this whole time.
That's why I'm here to help you out, Tim. So yeah, you got a chance to rack up some games against some really inferior opponents, if you will. But as Mark mentioned a little bit earlier, this is why you play the games. You got to still go out and handle your business, much like they did last night. One of the things that will stick with me all season long, Bobby's pregame comments before the game against the Pelicans last night: don't F around. They can't do that in the 7 to 9 game stretch against some really poor teams. They should be able to take advantage of
Do we
that.
know do you know anything about Jokic's status? Like, is he? And it's personal reasons, so no one knows, and it's none of our business. But is there any?
I
reason?
don't know the specifics. I thought it was just, nothing serious. But he has missed 3 games, so I mean, I genuinely don't. I would assume he'll be back by Friday, which with 2 full off days, and what was he supposed to miss 3 games? But I mean, I genuinely can't answer that question.
That is a big one.
believe Malone. The last I saw was just that they weren't sure. They weren't sure whether he'd be back by Friday.
Hopefully, everything is good.
Yeah.
It's just something to keep an eye on, obviously.
And you're right, Drew. Then we would really never stop talking about the Jazz games if they lost to the Utah Jazz.
Please just win.
Just win the game, and that wouldn't necessarily
I
matter.
like jazz music. I don't want to talk about jazz basketball.
Well, even if they play well, it's going to be like, why didn't they do this the first time?
Okay, since we're on the Jazz real quick, one of the funniest comments I've seen so far this year. So Dalton Connect went off last night for the Los Angeles Lakers, had 37 points, hit 9 threes. Will Hardy in his postgame comments last night, he's like, look, everyone in the building knew that Dalton Connect, who at one point made 4 straight threes, like they knew he was going to take like the second of the 4 that he made. He's like, yeah, everybody in the building knew that he was going to take that shot, except for a few people. The problem is those few people were the guys on my team. And that is how he explained away how his players had no idea what was coming with Dalton Connect and his big night last night.
That team managed to beat the Mavs. It was a masterpiece of dog ass.
That's right.
Yeah.
He said that after a game against the Mavs. The Mavs beat them by 50 last year.
That's right.
About a year ago today, and then they turn around and lose to them. But I'm fine. It doesn't even matter.
It doesn't even matter. Buy or sell here on the DLLS Mavs podcast. Let's turn our attention to the Mavericks bench. Quentin Grimes, fellas, we are a Quentin Grimes show here, has scored at least 10 points in 3 of his last 4 games for the Dallas Mavericks. Buy or sell, Q Dot will be the Mavericks' most valuable bench player by season's end. He will be the MVP by season's end.
Here's the thing. I just checked with my broker. I'm not legally allowed to buy more stocks. I've maxed out.
Oh, you're maxed out on Q Dot
in the offseason.
Got it.
And I didn't even think about selling them. And so I unfortunately have to just hold.
But
that's not
hold
an
your
answer.
Quentin Grimes.
Hold the stock.
Yeah, I'm not
selling?
allowed to buy anymore.
Okay.
Because I was high on him. I still am high on him. And my broker informs me like, this is it for me.
That's a great way to say push.
No, that's good.
That's good.
Yeah,
I like
that's
that.
good. I don't necessarily want to sell because I love Quentin Grimes, but I think that Najee Marshall is your most valuable bench player because I think the game changes a lot on both ends of the floor when he comes in. And now, granted, he is like career worsting from 3, but probably career besting on floaters and drives to the rim and things like that. So if those things level out, he'll still maintain this really high impact. But if the shot does not develop, and he loses anything on the floaters, that changes. But I think for right now, I'm all aboard the Najee Marshall train. But I'm bullish on them as a duo.
Okay.
Super bullish.
Can you
on them as a
repeat the
duo.
question? Sorry, I was texting some people.
Sure. Mavericks buy or sell. Q Dot will be the Mavericks' most valuable bench player by season's end. He's got at least 10 points in 3 of his last 4 games for Dallas.
I think I'm inclined to co-sign what you just said.
Najee?
Yeah. But look, Grimes has been, again, this is why we play the games. You go from a DNP to indispensable. He got called out publicly, didn't take it personally, and just responded with his play. So chapeau to him.
Yeah, for sure. I see what you're doing, Joe R. Co-NVBP with maybe Najee.
And Gafford in there too.
Yeah.
I mean,
Gafford's got 8 straight games of at least 10 points.
Here, you want a fun
Career
stat
high for
on
him.
Najee? From 5 to 9 feet, when he takes shots in that area, and I sorted this for the entire league by you have to take at least 10 shots in that area. He's taken 22. He's made 17 of them. That's 77%. That is by far the highest percentage in the league.
What percentage was that?
77.
That's pretty
Good number.
impressive.
77. I like
17
that
of 22.
number. I like that number.
He is also 5
The
of 8.
knife!
So 5 of 8 from 10 to 14 feet, and then way worse from longer distances.
As
So,
Bobby would say recently, the depth has been depthing for the Dallas Mavericks, especially with Q Dot playing the way that he's been playing here recently. Buy or sell, last one here in this segment, gentlemen. Mavericks are both top 10 in both defensive and offensive rating through their first 15 games of the season. Buy or sell, they will remain in the top 10 in both offensive and defensive rating by the time we hit the All-Star break. Buy or sell?
I'm buying.
Oh, you emphatic buy on that.
I'm buying quickly because I want to get in early. It's better to be early than late.
Mm-hmm.
But they have had a pretty decently tough schedule so far. Their schedule will get significantly easier over the next few weeks. And this team has shown that they will humiliate bad teams for the most part, except for Utah. So if they keep doing that, then I think they'll be top 10. Yeah, I'm buying.
Have we reached the point that we have to start drinking every time we say Utah on this show?
If we keep doing
Drink.
it, Bobby's got plenty
Drink.
of drinks that we can.
Drink.
Thanks,
The
Tanner.
Utah Bell.
Thank you. Thanks, Sandra.
The
We go grab
Stars
some
have a
Herman Miller.
0 days since Joe Pavelski's last mention, so we could have that too.
I don't know if buy or sell's the answer. It's like they better. I mean,
For the sake of the segment, damn it.
You-
Buy or sell,
you
Mark Stein.
you have to. I mean, if you want to be considered an elite team, you got to be top 10 in both. So they better.
they can slip a little bit on defense, and I wouldn't necessarily mean that we think way worse of them. And by slip a little bit, I just mean like, okay, they're 11th. What if they're 11th, 12th, 13th? I will say the defense has been more impressive than I think any of us expected. I think some of that is schedule, but then we just talked about the schedule that's coming up, and it's not one that, really would strike me with a lot of fear, and that shouldn't be the case for them either. I'll sell just because I think a top 10 defense is a lot to ask of this squad, but I don't know. At the same time, it's not like they've given us, just tons of reasons to doubt that it's going to fall off massively. I mean, they could allow, they could slip by 2 full points per 100 possessions, and they'd still be, as of right now, tied for 10th.
There's a lot of bad teams in the league, and most of them play in one conference, and the Mavs are about to play a lot of them.
Yeah,
It might be a situation where this defense is just elite against bad teams, and we're still dealing with questions about what is the defensive ceiling against great teams.
That's what it's been so far. They've been
Exactly that,
allowing 90, 95 points per 100 against the bad teams that they're
91
playing.
last night against the Pelicans.
But they've been like 115 plus in most of their games, 120 plus in a lot of their games against good teams. So I guess the way to approach answering that question is, do you think that they will continue sucking defensively against good teams, or do you think they'll eventually figure it out a little bit? Because if they do, then they should stay top 10. If they can't, then they play 5-6 good teams in a row, and it could get ugly.
I'm going to buy it because I think the word I'll use here is continuity. And hopefully the starting five that we saw last night with Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving, PJ Washington, Klaythompson, and Derek Lively II, that lineup will get into a groove, and everyone will settle into their roles on this team to develop consistency and continuity going forward that allows them to gain, I'll use another C word, chemistry on both ends of the floor, especially on the defensive end, that will allow them to remain in the top 10 in both offensive and defensive rating. That's how we play Mavericks buy or sell here on the DLLS
We didn't even
Mavs
address
podcast.
their special teams.
No, this is not a football show. That would be tomorrow.
I bet Luka would be really good at kicking.
He might be a pretty decent kicker.
Yeah,
might make a good fullback too because he's a big guy.
He claims to have made a kicked shot, like full court shot, once, and he was so mad that it wasn't on video.
I would be mad too if that wasn't on video.
Yeah, I've made one too. Prove me wrong. Can't.
He went around asking people in the gym the following day, like, "Did you get video? Did you get video?" That's how proud of it he was.
I would be too. That's a hell of a shot to make, or claim to make, I guess, if you're Luka Doncic. Coming up next here on the DLLS Mavs podcast, your questions from our Discord when it comes to these Dallas Mavericks. We'll answer those, including if Luka Doncic. That's right, including if Luka Doncic still has a chance to win the NBA's MVP. All that and more coming up next year on the DLLS Mavs podcast. But it's game time here on the DLLS Mavs podcast. If you love going to concerts, going to football games, basketball games, you got to make sure you purchase your tickets with Game Time. Game Time picks filters out the fluff to show you incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste your time searching through thousands of tickets. I'm going to WrestleMania in April at Allegiant Stadium for a 2-night event, and Game Time was able to help me pick out my seat with their panoramic views. Seat views that allow me to see where I'm going to be sitting in the app before I was able to purchase my ticket. And they got the lowest price guarantee, and Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference as well. So make sure you take the guesswork out of buying your tickets with Game Time. Make sure you download the Game Time app and create an account and use code DLLS for $20 off your first purchase. Remember, terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code DLLS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Gentlemen, what time is it?
Game time?
Yeah, Cat. Let's go. Let's go, Cat.
I have to tell you about this game-changing product I use before a night out with drinks. It's called Pre-Alcohol. Z-Biotics Pre-Alcohol Probiotic Drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to make Z-Biotics your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly, and you'll feel your best tomorrow. Every time I have pre-alcohol before drinks, like I might this weekend, I've got a little event on Saturday, I notice a difference the next day. I can just be, I can plan confidently on watching Red Zone the following morning without worry. I kept hearing about pre-alcohol and wondering what it was actually like. Now that I've tried it, I believe the hype. Go to zbiotics.com/DLLS Mavs to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use DLLS Mavs at checkout. Z-Biotics is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee, so if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked.
Got to do a little Mavericks Q&A here on the DLLS Mavs podcast. Your questions, including if Luka Doncic still has a chance to win the NBA's MVP. By the way, shout out to Dennis, who's in our chat, who says Stein out here texting in the trenches. Yeah, that's right, in the texting trenches. Yeah, he's always, look, man, you can dial up the Stein line and always do it while he's, dialing up whomever.
That's
or
right.
Texting whomever to get the latest NBA news and notes when it comes to your Dallas Mavericks and across the association. So let's jump into it.
I wish my teachers in high school would. What are you doing, Tim? Are you texting? I'm texting sources. It's okay. It's okay, Miss Montgomery.
Why didn't you do that?
Well, they didn't buy it. I wasn't an established, respected journalist yet. Still not. But
let's warm up a little bit on these questions before the ones we get to Bobby, who has some from the Discord. There's one I wanted to make sure we answered because I like the question from Screw41, who says who is the best QB on the Dallas Mavericks? Who's got the best arm, you think, on the Dallas Mavericks can play quarterback?
None.
I'll probably say Luka.
None of them can play quarterback.
None of them can play quarterback.
I don't know if Luka's ever thrown a football before.
Oh, he absolutely has. They've had Patrick Mahomes at practices before. They had Patrick Mahomes.
I was like, what does that mean?
They had Patrick Mahomes at practice during Luka's rookie season. That was before he got famous. So he was pretty famous. He won a Super Bowl then? He was about to.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't remember either.
All right. Well, you let us know who you think the best quarterback on the Mavericks could be.
I think it's Quentin Grimes.
Okay, Quentin Grimes could play.
Yeah.
To throw a nice football.
I think it helps to be quarterback sized. Like Luka's a little too tall. We don't want him to be Brock. Who's the adult? Brock Osweiler? Wilder?
Brock Osweiler.
Osweiler? Isn't that the 6'8" one who was just bad?
Right. Who was not very good at all.
Yeah.
Let's get to the ones from the Discord. As you were.
Do you want to do the MVP one real quick?
We're gonna prioritize the diehards,
but that was in the chat. Okay, let's do the Discord ones. Oh my gosh! I just wanted to. I think
I love this show.
This one was in the chat. It was does Luka still have a shot at MVP? I would say yes, but I would say it has to turn around soon. Now we can do Discord.
This is the show that you get less than 24 hours after we did a full post-game show on a 41-point win for the Mavericks. It's all right, Tim. It's all right. I got you, man. We're good here. We're good.
We're good. We'll be talking Luka MVP for the next 6 months. So
that's right.
We'll revisit that tomorrow, I'm sure. So I posed the question in the DLS Diehard Discord server, which if you become a diehard, you can join that server. Hey, Mavs questions, go. They're for the show. Now, one is from someone who claims to not be Tim Cato, but the account name is Tim Cato's Burner.
Really?
And I just don't know. I don't know if it's you or not. But they asked, and then they said, I'll let you answer first, and then I'll follow up. They asked,
Caller is not big enough to be a Colangelo.
Yeah. At what point do we become concerned about Najee's three-point shooting? My quick answer to that is I'm just not concerned about it right now. But later on in the season, maybe.
It's like, I don't know. There's no point. I don't feel like there's a point to be concerned about it. It's just like the more he shoots like this, the more it's accepted that he... Here's the thing. I guess there's no point to be concerned about it because right now Najee is a good player even though he's not making threes. He is a good player who's helping the team. He would be a better player who's helping the team even more if he's also making those threes at just a very, just a respectable clip. And he's not doing that right now. I guess the point to be concerned about it is if everything that Najee is doing effectively, making the team better, diminishes, and then he's a less effective player who also isn't shooting threes. That's the point to be concerned about it. Right now, if he goes the rest of the season without shooting threes, it changes a little bit our outlook on who he is as a player and whether he's playoff viable, stuff like that. But he's still a helpful player to this team. He has been, as you argued, Bobby, the most impactful player off the bench. So until he stops being the most impactful player off the bench, there is no point you worry about it. You just hope he gets better because he can be even more impactful if he does make threes.
Derrick Jones Jr. last season, first 20 games of the year, shot 41.7% from three. His last 56 games of the year, 30% from three. So that kind of stuff can change really quickly. Playoffs, his three-point percentage in the playoffs was 36.9%. So, it's ebbs and flows.
Maybe Najee Marshall's Reggie Bullock. He's a horrible shooter during the season before January, and then when the calendar turns to January, he just heats up and just goes on a heater, shooting 50%, from the three-point line.
There was a point in the San Antonio game he had a corner three, and he just missed it as badly as you can miss a corner three. And then he had a top of the key three, top of the arc three, missed that too. And you could see, you could visibly see the distress on his face during the game. But as Tim just said, he hasn't let it affect other parts of the game. And he has been, his take the threes away, his start here has been very promising, I think. And there were a lot of people who said, the Mavs have too big of a role earmarked for him. He's not going to be able to step into it. I think he has. Apart from the three ball, I think they're very pleased with his progress and the way he's settled in.
And I agree with the chat where it says it's probably going to be an issue in the playoffs if he can't make threes. So yes, I stand by my answer, but if you want a certain time to be worried about it, it's if they get all the way to the playoffs and he still can't make threes. I do think, especially once you get past a first round matchup, once you start playing the very top teams, it's going to be an issue. So.
And he's doing the other things, as we have mentioned, for this Mavericks team off the bench. He's got at least 13 points in 3 of his last 4 games, including all 15 of his points coming in the second half last night against his former team in the Pelicans in the 132-91 win.
If you could add, so this is from Kleb, if you could add one player to improve the current roster, who would you choose? Stipulation, they cannot be an all-star at any point in their career. So it cannot be LeBron. It's got to be
LeBron James.
I can't choose rookie LeBron.
No, it's a player today.
Yeah, but he wasn't an all-star.
It's got to be a player that's in the NBA right now that is a play at present day.
Dang.
Yeah.
I can't do
that's
Nikola
never been-
Mirotic. He has to be in the NBA.
Yeah, I guess you could bring him.
Oh, that's tough.
Anthony Randolph.
What?
Bring him back over. I still believe.
And they couldn't have been an all-star in their career.
Cooper
at all.
Flag.
That's the question.
No All-Stars.
No all-stars. Okay. Man, that's a great question.
I mean, Trey Murphy.
I like Trey Murphy.
Trey
That's my
Murphy's a good
serious answer. I mean, you could throw in a
Dorian.
That's a great answer too.
Dennis
you could throw
Garvin
in
breaking my heart.
What's the guy in the JJ in Atlanta? James, not James Johnson. What's his Jalen Johnson?
Jalen Johnson.
Thank you.
Johnson.
Thank you.
Good player.
I mean, you guys those are very good play. Like they're not all stars, but you guys are mentioning very, very good
We're
players.
mentioning future all stars.
And someone
But they're
said,
not
someone
all-stars
said
right
Herb
now.
Jones. Like Herb Jones is one of the best defenders in the league. Like
Not an
But I think-
all-star.
I would
He
argue.
meets the qualification.
I would argue Herb Jones fits the spirit of this question.
I want to be 25 pounds lighter by tomorrow. I mean,
Lou Dort. Paolo.
Paolo-
Yeah.
He's been an
did-
all-star.
Yeah, he made it
Dyson
last year.
Daniels has been really good this year. He's
Dyson
really
is
good this year.
so good.
I think I'm afraid he's going to be untouchable, if not already.
Yeah.
Lou Dort is the kind of player that you love to have on your team, but you absolutely hate and loathe if he doesn't play for your team. See Mavericks fans who can't stand Lou Dort. I'm gonna go with a Ty Jerome from Cleveland.
Wow.
I
That's
like
a deep
him.
cut.
It's a deep cut. Yeah, I like what Cleveland's doing with it.
Thunder upgrade Isaiah Hartenstein to questionable.
Oh, wow. That's
Might make his return
Pretty
tonight.
fast.
There.
I can
Okay.
give an answer that's going to make people mad,
Why would you do that?
but I legitimately believe this. Like, I think Grant Williams would be pretty good off the bench.
Next question, Bobby. Next
I
question.
think he's a decent player. I think he's a good player.
We've tried that here.
Obviously, I understand.
I'm going to
But
run you through some cap gymnastics for this one. This is from Mark. What kind of realistic package would the Mavs have to offer for Giannis? Now, very quickly, I'm going to do this.
Woo!
So, first off, it is impossible for them to trade for Giannis during the season. It's just impossible. It's
Wait.
not going to happen.
Can I take a timeout real quick?
Yes.
I love the fact that you can actually discuss this. Like, there's no
Oh, yeah.
repercussions for you
Yeah, I can
when it
do
comes
it
to
now.
discussing NBA trades, and you can fully cook on things like this.
I
now.
could do it
I
now.
love-
I feel like a
that
little
for
bit
you.
of guilty inside.
I feel like I shouldn't be doing this. I'm walking. Like, don't tell Adam Silver I'm doing this.
You got to fly.
Financially speaking, the Bucks are in the second apron, so there's a lot of rules they got to follow. Number one, they cannot aggregate salaries. So if they are, this is all purely hypothetical. If you're an aggregator and you're going to take this, you're a bad person, and I hope that you hit every single red light on the way home. No, this is all reckless speculation and
Reckless, damn it.
rules, and this is just
If
nothing.
they live in a city with public transportation, I hope the train leaves right as you're walking up to the station.
Yes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
The kind of thing that they would
Plus
have
the
to
buses,
do
too.
if you're trying to trade for Giannis or really any player with a big number is wait until the summer. And the reason that is because it's just easier to move guys in the summer. You don't have to stay under a certain number of guys on your roster. There's just less rules, less restriction, blah, 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 blah. So Giannis, this offseason, his salary will increase to $54 million. The Mavs have to be within 25% of that number in order to pull off the trade. But because the Mavs are already near at the first apron and will be even more into the first apron this summer, they have to actually almost match dollar for dollar. It is going to be it would be really, really tough to do if you're not including Luka or Kyrie in the trade. You'd have to add like PJ Washington, Daniel Gafford, Maxi Kleber, Derek Lively, and Jaden Hardy just to get close, and probably the person that you picked with the 2025 first rounder to get even closer, and maybe the player you pick with the 2025 second rounder, which, by the way, the Mavs have currently have the Sixers' second round pick in the 2025 draft, which is pretty nice. And they also currently own the Pistons' 2025 second round pick. So here the Mavs are with a first round pick in the 20s, likely, and then potentially two pretty good second rounders. And they would be able to trade the 2025 one and the 2031 one. I don't think that's enough to get to Giannis, but hey, crazier things in the world have happened. But it would be extremely tough to trade for any player with a high dollar figure without giving up Luka or Kyrie.
Let me first shout out, I believe his name was Enrique Garcia, who tweeted at me because you said it correctly there. The 2031 pick now is in play for the Mavericks. I think at some point last week we were talking trades, and I said Dallas had only one first available, and I was wrong. You stated it right. Shout out Enrique for catching that as well. They do now have
Good Mavs Twitter follow.
They do have the 2031 as well, but again, that's one. They only have one first before 2031. Like, if the Bucks eventually reach that point. And again, I want to underline this. I've written this multiple times in the last few weeks. This isn't even a discussion until Giannis goes to the Bucks and says, I want to go somewhere else. And until that happens, this is the Bucks are not, teams have called, the Bucks don't even want to entertain that discussion. So this isn't even a thing until Giannis and look, Charlie, I was literally going to say, I was literally going to say, is Charlie Saturday on here?
And lo and behold, there he is.
Don't worry, Charlie. We're moving on from this topic. We're moving on from you and Bobby's Bucks here very quickly. But whoever the theoretical superstar is that you want to imagine the Dallas Mavericks trading for, they have very little in the way of draft capital. And there are teams that are much better positioned than Dallas to make a swoop for another big name. A team like Utah, for example, which we also, I think we have now, we talk more about the Jazz than the Bucks on this show. The Jazz not only have tradable contracts, attractive young players of their own, and a haul of draft picks to work with. Not only does Utah have all that, Utah has a GM or a CEO in Danny Ainge who will say, you know what? I don't care if player X wants to be here or not. We'll do it. So, the reality is whoever the theoretical superstar we want to talk about, Dallas is not at the front of the line to trade for someone like that when you already have two max guys here.
Yeah, it would have to be a situation where players like, I want to go there and nowhere else, but even that has not been respected. You know, like Dame with Miami, that didn't
Donovan
happen.
Mitchell ended up in Cleveland.
Yeah.
And shout out to the Cavs for convincing Donovan Mitchell to re-sign. That threw a wrench in a lot of teams. There were a lot of teams out there that wanted to make a trade run at Donovan Mitchell and thought he was going to not do the extension and force the Cavs to trade him, and the Cavs were able to get him to do the extension.
If Dallas were to seriously trade for a megastar like Giannis, it would probably involve Derek Lively going to the other team, being involved in the trade. So
that would
just
be a
rationalize
tough
that as you seriously, if you want to contemplate
And your
those
entire
type
Charlie Saturday does want me to add here. He didn't put it in there, but he wants me to add that the Bucks are monitoring Luka. He does want me to put that. He does want me to put that in there.
But also the entire team. So it would be like
also
whether it's
that,
Giannis or some other guy on a max deal, your team, if you don't include Luka or Kyrie in that deal, would be Luka, Kyrie, that player, and Klay, and then minimums. Okay. And I just don't know if that's I don't know if that's worth it. I'm
not signing. You're not going to re-sign Grimes. You're not going to.
There's a lot of rules.
You're not going to retain Dante Exum.
Tanner, can you throw?
Maybe.
Can you throw the Screw 41 comment up there?
How likely do we think?
The second apron.
Yeah. First of all, there's no third apron.
Yeah,
the basic point here is the aprons. It's no longer are your owners willing to pay that price. That's not the question. The question is, are you willing to sacrifice all the team building tools you give up when you become a second apron team? In all seriousness, that's why the Bucks are in such a dire position right now, because you can't aggregate salaries in trades. You can't sign buyout guys.
Your picks are frozen.
You lose so many things when you go into the second apron. That's why you don't want to do it. It's not about, Matt Ishbia is willing to spend any amount in the world that the NBA allows. That's not Phoenix's trouble. Phoenix's trouble is, like, right now they have injuries. They can't easily make changes. Phoenix did amazing in the summer with the limited flexibility they had to bring in a real point guard in Jones, to keep Royce O'Neal at the price they did. Like, you just don't want to be a second apron team because you lose so many team building options.
Let's take our final break here on the DLLS Mavs podcast. When we come back, is the NBA Cup good for the league, Mark Stein? We will let him cook even further when it comes to the NBA Cup. All that more coming up next year on the DLLS Mavs podcast.
But first, hey, there's some people in here that I recognize. There's some people in the chat that I might not recognize. If this is your first time watching our show, or maybe last night was your first night watching our show, we really hope you're enjoying spending time with us here at DLLS Sports. Subbing to the channel is a great way to help us, or subscribing on Apple or iTunes, I guess not Apple, or Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Hey, that'd be great. But if you want to take your support for what we're doing here one step further, you can scan that that QR code right down there, or go to alldlls.com/diehard, or click the link in the description below, and it will take you to a page where for less than $7 a month, you can change your life by becoming a diehard. Now, what do you get when you do that? First off, you get a free shirt. We got more than 35 shirts to choose from. You can pick your favorite. You get a discount on any other stuff that you ever want to buy from that store. Secondly, you gain access to alldlls.com behind the entire paywall. You get to read all of the premium written content, post-game analysis, breakdowns, features, profiles, interviews from people like Tim Cato and the writers on the other teams in town. We got more on the way, baby! You also get to join the DLLS Discord, where you can get your questions answered. You can hang out with us during games, good or bad. Sometimes there's a little too much bad, but you know what? We try and keep it positive in there, and it's a great place to be. And many, many, many more bennies.
Physical diehard card.
That's right.
When you get it, make sure you show it off and tag us on social media. We'll shout you out here on DLLS Mavs again.
Bennies.
That's right. That's right.
The diehard card.
The what?
What did I say? Die card.
That's right.
Yeah, the diehard card. It actually doubles as a social security. So if you're like applying for a passport or
Oh my God.
TSA pre-check,
That would be nice, though.
yeah, you don't even
I don't
need to
have
bring
pre-check
it. It
anymore.
is a
It's-
legal form of ID.
Why not?
Despite Tim,
I just didn't renew
what he just said,
I gotta
make sure you become part of our DLLS Sports family here at DLLS Sports.
Can I kick off this with one last question? So this
Sure.
actually applies to what we're doing.
Okay.
So I skipped the what's your favorite Gen 9 Pokemon, but my answer is Houndstone. The last question
As he gave
is
the answer
from
anyway.
Moo Beastie. If you had to pick between winning the NBA Cup or going to the Western Conference Finals and losing, which one would you pick and why? And I just thought that was a really appropriate question given the nature of today's show.
The Lakers clearly answered that question a year ago, but whatever. Losing in the Western Conference Finals or winning the NBA Cup. I mean, losing in the Western Conference Finals. Yeah, like that's not even a thing.
So you don't value the NBA Cup?
Well, the NBA Cup,
Not in the way that Mark Stein does.
I don't know.
But,
I would say. I think it's a more interesting question if you pair them together. What if you could win the NBA Cup, but you're going to lose in the conference finals? Conference finals, respectable. But then it sets up the hypothetical as, do you believe this team is possibly capable of doing more than that? Because otherwise, like winning the NBA Cup and what's the expected outcome? Like they're just whatever Dallas is going to do this season.
Should
Or-
should winning the NBA Cup be an indicator if you're a good team or not?
I
No.
just wanted to do this.
I
Over,
think
I just
so.
wanted to do this
There,
over again
there.
from last night because all four of us are together. I'm going to give you guys the floor, but you know, like I said,
Are you?
I
No,
am.
I'm just joking.
I
I'm
found out after the fact that my rambly thing threw Tanner off. So the basic premise of this is: do you like the NBA Cup as it is? That's question A. Or B, do you prefer my proposal that we take the whole league to Vegas for 7 to 10 days and do the whole tournament in one shot? Top two seeds are the two teams there are only two seeds, the two teams that went to the finals. So the Celtics and the Mavericks are on opposite sides of the bracket. All other 28 teams go into a hat. We draft it randomly and we play out a single elimination tournament. Again, it probably takes a little bit more than a week. I think Drew, who's now in the chat, I think he was the one who last night said Stein just wants a week in Vegas. Well played. There might be a small amount of truth to that. But like I said, it's probably logistically harder to pull that off than I'm suggesting. But I want you guys to tell me, what should the league do? Leave the NBA Cup as is, or should we go to Vegas for a week to 10 days?
Why am I being looked at?
Because you don't know.
didn't-
No,
you
Kevin-
weren't- you weren't in the combo last
Yeah.
night.
Yeah.
Every time you do that, though, like that, it's a step too far. Please put the mic down. Kevin Gray, you are not Dirk Nowitzki. Put the mic down. Kevin, you go first, actually. Kato's angering me with this mic
Oh, okay.
thing.
Well, shoot. As someone who does appreciate and love soccer as well, I like the idea of getting other teams involved in this and making this a true tournament, similar to what we were kind of discussing last night with Champions League. You're inviting teams from all over the world, from different leagues, to get into this one big tournament, and let's see who the best team in the world theoretically is based off of these teams getting together. So I think the first iteration of the NBA Cup last year, I thought the idea was like, okay, it's something new, something different, create some incentive for some better competition during the early portion of the regular season. I thought the idea of it was pretty good, but the way that it's been executed, not mixing the East and the West together, there's not a lot of intrigue in terms of the teams that are playing each other, because we could just watch a regular Memphis Mavericks game anytime that we want to. I want to see the Mavericks maybe have a rematch against the Celtics with actual tournament implications, on the line.
And see, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
But I appreciate, that's really hard logistically to pull off. In a perfect world, we would have, could we get 2 EuroLeague teams in here? Could we even just get a G League All-Star team here? Could we just get somebody different than the 30 teams we already see?
Yeah.
But I appreciate that is really hard to pull. I promise you, even my idea of let's go to Vegas for a week to 10 days, the NBA would say, do you realize the havoc this would cause to the schedule? So I think
what you're saying, lost involved as well, yeah.
Exactly. The teams that really make a lot from their home gates, those owners don't want to give away. The Warriors losing 2 or 3 home dates. I mean, that's more than right. You don't care, but that's more than $10 million to them. So they're not going to sign up for that. But but what you're saying is that would be the greatest scenario. Could we get 2 to 4, whatever the number is, could we get some teams from other leagues around the world, but that might be way far the line. That's why I'm proposing the Vegas idea that let's try to create if we can only have our 30 teams, let's try to create a tournament some other way.
And look, it sounds so cool. What if Luka gets to play against Olympiacos? That
or
sounds,
Real Madrid.
and that is more akin to the European Cup model. But here's the thing. We have lower tier cups in soccer. Everybody, the Champions League is the highest form of competition. You know what the Carabao Cup is? It's a chance for the big teams like Man City and Chelsea and Arsenal to play their lowest tier of players, and that is functionally what would happen.
The FA Cup as well.
The moment you introduce, so inherently, if you're playing a team that is not an NBA team, it's not going to be a game that counts for the regular season. And all of a sudden, it's going to be Luka's going to rest in those games. Kyrie, your top 5 are going to rest. All of a sudden, you're going to be playing your two-way players. I don't think there's any way to make NBA teams take that seriously because we've seen it. We've seen it in soccer. We can pretend and say that if it was Real Madrid and Olympiacos and I don't know Fenerbahce, if these teams were in the cup. We would love for them.
And that is a sensational point. 100% real issue with soccer cups.
We want that to be the Champions League, but it can't be. What it's going to turn out, because functionally, what those European teams are, they're not a La Liga team versus a Bundesliga team. It is a Premier League team against a League One team, the division 2 steps below. That is how they would view it. And that is how it works in European competitions, because you're not playing your peers. You're playing someone that not only is below you, but is very obviously perceived as below you.
And look,
NBA teams would look at it the exact same way.
You bringing up this would be one of the NBA's main arguments, that the NBA would say not only are the logistics of doing a separate tournament really hard, if we don't make these regular season games, teams will sit their guys and not take it seriously. But somehow we got this. My whole issue with this, it just doesn't feel like a tournament the way they do it now. If there's 67 games in the tournament and 66 are regular season games that count twice, it just ain't a tournament to me. That's my
I like
core.
Your idea, by the way. This is the first time. I guess I didn't hear you pitch it last night. I like it a little bit better than what they're doing, and I still don't love it because I'm not sure there's a way for this to work. I don't mind that they're trying it. I don't know if I'm ever going to be bought into the cup. Even though I'm bought into the concept of the cup, I then watch the games and it doesn't make me feel any different. I liked the idea better than I've actually liked the execution. I do think, Mark, your idea is better than what they're doing right now. But again, I like the concept of what they're doing right now. And just because I like the concept of what you're pitching doesn't mean that if it actually was implemented that I would be watching the games and I would feel any differently than I do watching these cup games like we did last night.
Plus, there's no real incentive outside of winning this cup assigned to this tournament. The winner of the tournament, they get a nice, cool trophy, and if you're the case of the Lakers, you put a banner up. Congratulations.
No, I think every team will put a banner up because the league will. The Lakers and the Celtics are the 2 teams that could say we're not putting a banner up. This is beneath us. But the league would have been so crushed I think the Lakers felt like they had to do something, because if the league is trying to tell us this is important, this is important, this is important, if the Lakers didn't recognize it with some sort of banner, it would have been a huge slap in the face to the league. So I think the Lakers felt like they had to do that.
The best idea I heard about the Cup, I think this was, I can't remember who, but from last season, there wasn't enough of a reason for fans to care about it. And I don't think this is a remotely feasible suggestion or solution, but it would be so cool if somehow the NBA subsidized the tickets for like the following game if you won the Cup. Like giving fans some, I don't think that is realistic. And I think there's way too many complications that come from that. And, you know, like who's the lucky person who doesn't get to have to pay for tickets, whatever. But there has to be some reason for fans to care about it, because clearly the money that the reward that the players are getting has them locked in to an extent. You know, I do think that they care a little bit, but there's no real reason for the fans to care. If there's some sort of benefit you could give to the fans, because I'm not sure, like playoff seeding or anything like that.
You cannot assign.
See, and that's why I would love, I would love for the Mavs to win it purely from the perspective of, I want to be in the city of a team that wins it, because I want to see what the fan reaction is. Like, I want to see how Mavericks fans would really respond to the hoisting of an NBA Cup.
I think it'd be cool. It'd be neat. That's it.
Would there be a
small feather and a cap?
Would there be a Would there be a parade?
I'm trying to think.
No parade. No parade.
Would there be would you? I mean, I would think the Mavs would hang some sort of banner for that.
Probably, yeah. I mean, would they hang division banners? Like, why wouldn't they hang an NBA Cup thing? I mean, I think it would be cool. It would be neat. I don't think anyone would cry. I don't think it's gonna,
of joy.
It's not gonna be like
no one's dying.
A line in Luka's Wikipedia bio, or it's not going to go in Kyrie's Hall of Fame plaque or whatever. But like, it would be cool. It's something to do. The way I see it is like, there's just so many games, and if we're going to keep being subjected to an 82 game schedule where stars sit all the time, you might as well front load the schedule with some interesting games that stars are going to want to play in because they could profit off of it. Unfortunately, we have to financially and in terms of like postseason awards and honors incentivize stars to play games, because there's just too many damn games now. So like, the fans win by watching players play. That's ultimately what it is. I mean, unfortunately, the reality we live in is if these games were meaningless, stars would probably not play them.
Yeah.
But that's where we're at right now. That's fan sentiment. NBA ratings are down. A lot of fans complain about how many guys miss games. Like, give us reason to play. Give the players extra reason to play. And if it takes $1 million carrot to get them to play more, then unfortunately that's just what we got to do.
I would also add to the point of, if you're going to do this in Vegas, take 7 to 10 days out of the league year to do this, shorten the season by 5 or 6 games.
Well, no, I think this is probably one of the things working against this plan. I think the league would have to take everybody, like the way they currently do it, they only schedule 80 out of your 82 games. They would probably have to go down to 78, because the most that any team could play is 5 if you did it as a 32 team single elimination tournament. So you'd have to take everybody down to 78. The problem then becomes, okay, first round loser only played 1 game in Vegas. Now you got to give them 3 additional games. Second round team has played 2 games in Vegas. Now we got to give
be a losers bracket maybe. But
imagine if there was a losers bracket and your guy got hurt in a losers bracket, you would already.
Well, it'd still count for the regular season, and so that's the argument, right?
So there, like I said, I said this last night as well. I don't want to make this sound like a logistical snap of the fingers that it would be easy to do this, but you'd have to take everybody down to 78 games and figure out how you're going to get everybody back to 82, and then you'd still have the 2 teams that make the finals go to 83.
And then you have the 2 teams that aren't NBA teams that you're adding to make it a 32-team even tournament, and the only way to do this is by making every season worth a regular season result. And then people are going to be crying about, oh, you got to play a European team.
That would be, that would be awesome if you could. Like,
that'd be super fun.
I'm assuming that you couldn't even get the 2 additional teams. So like, but yeah, in Tim's, if they did it how Tim is saying, yeah, it would be great if it was a full 32 teams with 2 teams from the Euro League. But it is ambitious, but like I said, start small. If you're only going to have the 30 NBA teams in it, let's just do something to make it a tournament. That's my plea here. This does not feel like a tournament. Klay Thompson, the Tuesday night NBA Cup opener was going to be awesome because Klay was going back to the Bay. It had nothing to do with the NBA Cup. Last night, Cleveland playing Boston was a story because the Cavs were 15-0, not because it was an NBA Cup game. I mean, it's just the reality.
That'll do it for us here on the DLLS Mavs podcast. We really appreciate all of you joining us here on the show and our robust discussion when it comes to the NBA Cup. Hopefully, as the rest of this tournament goes on, we'll see some exciting games as the Mavericks get back on the floor on Friday for their third NBA Cup game when they take on the Denver Nuggets in Denver. We are off tomorrow for the DLLS Mavs podcast, but we will be back on Friday for our DLLS Mavs pregame show at 8:30 p.m. with a 9 p.m. tip-off time on Friday night. So get your minds ready, get your bodies rested. 9 o'clock tip-off time. That's right. Get high.
I've already got a good poll question for that show. Okay, I'm gonna save it because it's too late to do it.
Should we ban 9 p.m. tip-offs?
Yes, definitely.
I'm so opposite on that.
We know you're a night owl, but we got to get out of here. 8:30 tip-off, or excuse me, DLLS Mavs pregame showtime at 8:30 tip-off at 9 p.m. on Friday. Again, we're off tomorrow here on DLLS Mavs. For Mark Stein, Bobby Carella, Tim Cato, I'm Kevin Gray. Appreciate you joining us here on the DLLS Mavs podcast. We'll talk to you on Friday. Y'all be good.
Goodbye.
Peace.
We all silly like the mayor.